Hello everyone, welcome back to the James A channel. Let's get into the review of Lucky Day. I will say there are probably two words that don't really go together, but just bear with me because I think they sum this up pretty well, and that would be necessary filler. Because maybe it doesn't really have too much relevance to the wider arc of the season, and there's not really anything massively high stakes, in my opinion at least, but it is necessary because I think it allows for some interesting sides of Unit and Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday. These characters, I think it allows us to see some interesting sides of their characters that you wouldn't really see in a usual sort of traditional story. So we have a nice opening. It's all the way back in 2007. There's fireworks and all this sort of stuff. We have a half-decent child actor for once who was there when the Doctor and Belinda, in their only scene of the episode actually, together, arrive, and they've still got that Vindicator thing, doing whatever. They're not back in 2025 yet. They are just a little bit early, and it's during this that the Doctor gives the young boy, Conrad, a coin. He runs off, leaving the Doctor and Belinda. And he goes to his mum and he says, "Look at this coin I found, all this," and she doesn't really give a shit. She gets a bit pissed off that she's been distracted from the fireworks, but he's got a coin, so good for him. And yeah, we then cut and he is all grown up, now as an adult, Conrad, and he's interviewing Ruby Sunday. And we go into the title sequence. And her name, Millie Gibson, is there with along with Ncuti Gatwa and Verada Sethu, which is quite interesting that we get all three of them, even though they don't actually appear in a scene together. Hello guys, sorry to interrupt you from, well, the future for me, but I just wanted to say that I forgot to mention in the review, I've just hit 500 subscribers. I think I'm on like 580 now, something ridiculous like that. So thank you to everyone who's subscribed. But if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask them in the comments. I'm going to film a 500 subscriber special Q&A in a couple of days. So any comments you have, it can be Doctor Who or otherwise, get them in the comments. And thank you, and let's get on with the review. Cheers. Once the titles are over, we then have quite a Love and Monsters-esque sequence of Conrad stumbling across a TARDIS. He's about to put his hand on it, and then there's just a bit of noise being made. So he goes into this like abandoned building, and there's a monster there. So yeah, quite a Love and Monsters style thing. But it's during this that he encounters the Doctor and Ruby, and he also gets like some slime on him, and that like marks him as a target for these creatures. It's a bit weird that he becomes a conspiracy theorist later on when he literally experiences a sort of mini adventure, and he still thinks, nah, Unit's involved with this. I do kind of wonder, because he experiences that and he gets the photo of Ruby, but then he later sort of, I'm assuming it's after this that he then discovers Unit and all of this, and he thinks it's fake. So I found that whole sort of side of it, him not believing in Unit, it felt a bit random, and I kind of think there needed to be a bit more to make that believable, because it felt a bit too sort of random initially. But he has this photo that he gets of Ruby, and this sort of manhunt to get her on his podcast begins. She arrives there, just ready to do the podcast, and he's kind of interviewing her, trying to figure out more about the Doctor, more about Unit. She's not really letting on too much. And as Ruby is explaining over a cup of coffee, as you do, explaining monsters over a cup of coffee, she is sort of saying what the Shriek, I keep wanting to say Shriek, the Shriek, what it wants to do and how what it needs to do, how it sort of kills people. And during this explanation, the direction's really good, because the scene slowly descends into chaos around her, and that fooled me, because in the trailer I thought, oh, she's a bit of a badass, like this is just like she's working for it or something in the trailer, but no, it's not actually the case. She's just kind of painting the picture for him, and the direction is also painting that picture for us. The director, I want to say his name is Peter Hoare. He's a very good director. He did Robot Revolution as well, and I thought that was good. The whole direction of this story as well, I thought was really strong in places, but that was definitely a standout moment. They then go on a dinner date, and we see more of Carla and Cherry, Ruby's family, and it's nice seeing them again. They don't really have too much to do, and RTD was kind of leading on that there'd be more of a development of storylines and stuff to do with them. I didn't really see that personally. Now, at this point, the romance stuff as well has gone on quite a bit, so it seemed pretty obvious that one of them would be using the other for something. I just assumed because Unit hadn't been mentioned yet that this was secretly Ruby going on a mission to try and, I don't know, use him as bait for the monster or something. I'm just guessing. I wasn't really sure, but I did kind of think that one of them was using the other. As we will find out later, though, it was not Ruby using Conrad. They then arrive in the English village, and we love a little English village. It's always what a Doctor Who's done well, hasn't it? They're then at this pub with the mates. Let's try the pub, if you get that reference. What I was going to say is that I found it weird because when they're arriving and she's at the bus stop, now there's a bit of the flickering lights going on. We'll come to that because I kind of have a little problem with that. But maybe this was just me on the TV I watched it on, but the sort of sides of the frame were a bit blurry. I don't really know. It kind of looked like they went for this sort of motion blur effect on it. I found that a bit weird. Maybe that was just what I was viewing it on made it look a bit weird, the image. And also, occasionally the audio in place seemed a bit, I don't know, not muffled, but a bit heavy. But maybe that was just me. Let me know in the comments if you noticed any sort of technical errors. Ruby then has to get the next round of drinks for the mates, and she's talking to, I'm just going to call her female mate because I can't remember what her name was, but she's talking to her, and it's during this that the lights keep flickering a bit more, and the sort of bartender, this old guy, he's like, oh, he seems a bit worried. I think it's during this that then it all kind of descends into chaos as outside it's all dark and suddenly this woman runs in, she's saying her dog got scared or something, and the monsters are outside. That's what we figure out. Ruby can see them through the windows. Again, it's directed really well. It is actually quite creepy. I think probably 8-year-olds might have been a bit scared by that. It's also around this time, it might have been just before that, where Ruby goes and she has a phone call with Kate, and I do actually quite like this because during that phone call, we learn that Mel is in Sydney because something's happening there, which is quite interesting. Is that going to have any relevance to the season? Probably not. I don't think there's anything set in Australia. But yeah, I think what I will say is that for the first time in probably, I don't know, 50, 55 years, it feels like we have a unit family. I don't think until probably after Planet of the Spiders, I don't really think with any of the Tom Baker stories or the odd stories like Battlefield or anything in the 12th Doctor era, none of them felt like unit family stories. They just felt like unit stories. There wasn't really any emotional connection, I felt, like I think a lot of us did when it was that Pertwee unit era. Obviously with Tom Baker, I think maybe there was a little bit of hostility there, so it never felt like the same dynamic. But here, the characters kind of interact in this way where it feels quite homely, and I feel sort of comfort watching these guys on screen. I kind of, maybe last season didn't enjoy it as much. I don't think they worked as well for me, but now I think the dynamic kind of has settled in for me, and I do really enjoy it. And I think Kate as well, it's interesting because she kind of acts like a motherly figure almost to Ruby, even though Ruby kind of has two mothers at home. So, yeah. But we then, we're back into the scene where all chaos is breaking loose. The lights are flickering. Is it going to be Weeping Angels or Vashonarada? No. I already said that. There's monsters outside, right? It's the Shriek or the Shrieks. Is it Shriek or Shrieks if there's multiple of them? I don't know. But Ruby then acts all brave and goes out, and she's got like I don't even know what, but it's a bit crap because one gets within a few feet of her and she starts jumping back, being all scared. What was she going to do anyway? It is quite a sort of doctor-y thing to do, to just go out and face a monster even though you don't really have any hope. You can see the influence coming in there, but it's a bit silly. Conrad joins her, and we're thinking, holy crap, are they going to get attacked? But unit flood in, and we have this massive orchestral reprise of Shepherd's Boy and all this sort of stuff. It's quite literally, it's probably the grandest entrance UNIT ever had to a story. It's quite incredible. But it's all for nothing, because, they're getting their guns and they're about to shoot. But no, it's just two guys in masks who have incredible agility to kind of jump around all these places. They're very effective for two, like, random teenagers or, like, guys in their 20s to just act like the monsters. How do they get those costumes and how are they accurate? I don't really know, but don't question that sort of stuff, right? Because, guys, it's all a ploy. And Conrad basically works with this, or he is like in charge of this thing called Think Tank, and he's not really into Ruby somehow. I mean, he says it was a chore going out with her for 3 weeks. God, I think most of us would not call it a chore. But I mean, it's a bit weird that he kind of. It's a good twist. It fooled me, but yeah, it's a bit of an interesting sort of direction for his character. That he's kind of this conspiracy theorist, a bit entitled. Is very random. But then again, random is good, right? Especially because you're kind of 15-20 minutes into the story. You're wondering what direction it's going to head in. So, yeah, that's the direction it headed in. And I could kind of tell, as I said earlier, that something was up. Because it never works like that. You never just have a perfect relationship happening for 15 minutes in Doctor Who. It was too much time for it to ever have been genuine. He then kind of gets escorted away and we transition into all this news coverage. Trinity Wells is there because why wouldn't she be there? Always great to see her. And yeah, there's all this sort of social media stuff about people making TikToks and reels. And I mean, I think that probably will date it a bit down the line. That's a very sort of present day way of news being shared. I think that for me, the public outcry aspect could have been a bit more fleshed out. We don't really see much of that. We see a lot of that mob mentality, but I think for such a big sort of idea of a sort of revolution, I guess, against UNIT and outcry, I think that is a very interesting concept. Not really like anything we've seen before, and it feels like it's a little bit sidelined because it's like a focus of, look, this guy, Conrad, he's a bit of an asshole, we're just going to focus on that. We're not going to show you too much of that mob mentality. So I think that could have been done a bit better. If they had an extra couple of minutes, you could have shown that. It's not like they didn't show any at all. They showed a good amount. I just wanted a little bit more, if I'm going to nitpick. Perhaps that was the point, though, sort of making it all about him, even though all this stuff is going on around him. He's the central villain of the story, really. He then begins his infiltration of UNIT, and that is where I do have a little bit of a problem, because I haven't mentioned up till now, but there's just this random guy working with UNIT. I mean, it's just, why do we keep doing this? We're going to bring in some random person who we've never seen before working for UNIT. Is he innocent? No, he's obviously working for him, although he gets shot, so deserved, because didn't want him in the story anyway. I think that twist of the guy working for Conrad, we could all kind of see it coming from a mile off. But, you know, again, they don't have heaps of time. There's quite a lot they're trying to get into this, so occasionally you just have to look past little things like that. It's then we're now at this sort of final confrontation as he's going up the elevator and everyone is preparing for him to arrive. And finally, Kate Stewart gets some character as she pretty much, Conrad says something about, oh, your dad was a coward, which he wasn't. We all know. I think we all got a little bit pissed off just hearing that. But yeah, she gets a bit of character from this. She actually gets a bit pissed off with him, and she just lets the monster come in, and she says, if the Doctor was here, he wouldn't let me do it. And that's what I like. I think, yeah, it's good that you're not acting the way you would when the Doctor's here. This is something you have to deal with on your own. So the fact that we're actually sort of seeing her a bit more in action, with a bit more, I think, control of the situation, I did think that was good, because she shouldn't really be a side character. The Brigadier always kind of matched the Doctor to some degree. He was never as smart as the Doctor, but he had the authority, and I thought that was a really good dynamic. So if Kate just acts this way a bit more, if she interacts with the Doctor later on, I think that will definitely suit her character a lot better. Conrad then faces the Shriek, and it starts like trying to get him. I mean, it's very shit because this monster, we've heard the whole story about how dangerous it is, and it's just going around a little bit. Finally gets face to face with him, and it looks like it wants to snog him. It's just like looking at him like, oh, what's it gonna do? So much time, opens its mouth, and then it gets electrocuted by Ruby. Conrad's then like, thank you, he's grateful. I think it's kind of made to be in the story that he is just thoroughly evil, so I thought the fact that he showed that bit of vulnerability, it was interesting. I think it would have worked better if he wasn't even grateful for her for her saving him, and then when he gets bitten by it, you wouldn't feel bad for him. Not that I think any of us felt bad for him, because he was a bit of a tosser. As he's bitten, the scene fades away, and we get this nice shot of the unit tower and back into it, and it's all the sort of goodbyes with unit, and Kate gets confronted by what's his name, the main soldier guy. I don't even remember his name, that's bad of me, but yeah, he kind of confronts her about, oh, that was a bit too dark, and she kind of shrugs him off, and I think that's good, because I don't think it was too dark, and I think the idea of unit being a bit more dark is what I want to see, especially because they're going to have that land and the sea thing spin-off next year. I don't want that to be a silly thing. I think making that quite dark could be really good. So I like the direction they're taking Una and particularly Kate Stewart in. So I'm keen to see more of her. Kate then shows a bit of a kind side as she says to Ruby, I'm here for you and that sort of thing. And I think for Ruby, maybe she didn't get the happy ending. But I think the way that particularly it's acted by Millie Gibson, it's not just a story for Ruby Sunday, it's almost a story for all Doctor Who companions. It's for all of them, because so many of them, they leave and you never see them again, and that's kind of it. But this one, they really add a lot of depth to her character, particularly in the wake of no longer travelling with the Doctor, and we can see that she's still you can tell she kind of misses him, that she was fond of those times, that they still follow her. She says at one time, she's quite vulnerable in the pub, that she's got PTSD from it, and I think, that's a really good side of companions to show, that actually leaving the Doctor, it can be challenging, and I think, again, I was saying about how maybe this is a bit of filler, but it's necessary, and that is one of the things that is necessary for, not just necessary for showing the outcry against Unit, which we never really had, but it's good because it's one where we have a lot of time to see a character's life after being with the Doctor. So, fair play to Millie Gibson, she smashed it out of the park here, and I think, it's just the type of story that it's good to have occasionally, showing that, when the Doctor's not there, these people, their whole character is influenced by him, even when he's not there, and I do really like that, and I'm in support of that. I think we know that especially with RTD, there's always Doctor Light stories, and in his era, those Doctor Light stories were often, we're talking about the original one here, like with Love and Monsters, Blink. Those two stories are with random people that just sort of encounter the Doctor and their behaviour changes, but I think having familiar characters showing how they react to situations without the Doctor is also a really good thing to do. So even though it was maybe a little bit of filler in this one, I do think they took that and they made a really good story out of it. After we've said all these goodbyes to Unit, it cuts to Conrad. He's in his prison cell, and the TARDIS that materialises around him. I'm trying to think when was the last time we saw that effect. It happened in the TV movie with Chang Li. It happened with the Rose and the Dalek and the Parting of the Ways. Has it happened since 2005? You have to tell me in the comments. Maybe it happened in the Jodie Whittaker era or something. I just don't remember. But yeah, there's Ncuti Gatwa. He doesn't have much in the story, but this is his quite a meaty scene for him, and I think he does very well. I think. Again, he's not one of my favourite Doctors, so maybe someone like Tennant, or, I don't know, Tom Baker, Eccleston even. I think one of them could have done a better job with it, but, you know, that's not to say Shooting Out was bad in this scene. I thought it was very good. I think it's not quite a Doctor-defining moment, one of those really iconic ones, but it's not far off. I thought it could be quite memorable to a degree. And I think what makes it even better is the fact that Conrad is totally undeterred by any of this. He just stays smug, in denial, and I think that is effective. I'm glad they did that. I don't think it would have worked if he sort of cowered a bit. There's all the stuff about how he's a coward, but he still stays true to what he believes in, which you can almost kind of respect to a degree. Even when the Doctor's shown him the TARDIS and all this stuff has happened, he's still adamant. And I think the fact that it's implied that he's let go at the end shows that, yeah, maybe he will be relevant later on, and that there's not his character arc hasn't ended. I think they've pretty much done all they can with him, so unless he turns out to be some god, or I don't know, unless he turns out to be someone rather than an entitled guy, then I think they kind of can't do too much more with his character. But we'll see. He might not even return. That's that's 3 stories in a row now where the villain of the story, it seems like maybe they've got away. Because in Lux, Mr. Ringadin kind of just gets launched into space. Last week, obviously, with the Midnight Entity, there was strong suggestions that it indeed survived. And this week, he gets let out. So maybe that's a running theme not like an in-game style finale, but a finale where, yeah, pretty much everyone is just going to be there, and it's part of this master plan, not the Daleks' master plan, but the master plan of someone who hasn't appeared up to the very end of this story, Mrs. Flood, because she is, as she calls herself, she's the governor. And, yeah, she lets him out, and, I mean, again, it feels a little bit shoehorned that she's just there at the end for the second story in a row. For the third story in a row, what am I saying? Think about it. Again, 3 stories in a row where she's just there right at the end. There's always a twist at the end. Well, actually, no, there's not. There's always a Mrs. Flood at the end. Because, yeah, I don't know if that's because she's being shoehorned in, or if that's intentional. But, I mean, I thought it didn't feel as shoehorned. I actually quite enjoyed seeing her in this one, even though I'm not a massive fan of that arc. I feel like it's a bit repetitive, a bit unengaging for me personally. But maybe am I the only one who isn't as interested in that Mrs. Flood arc? Let me know what you think. But after she pretty much lets him out, we go into the titles, and next week we're in Nigeria. Are they going to find Web of Fear 3? I don't know. Is Philip Morris going to be lurking in the background? I don't know. We will find out. The trailer looked good, and I think going to Nigeria, I think it's the first time I've been to Nigeria, so that is going to be good. Overall, really enjoyed this one. I would be giving it an 8 out of 10. It's nowhere near as good as The Well. Personally, I feel like maybe I prefer this just a little bit more than Lux, just because I think for what they had, a filler episode, I thought it was executed well, and it covered some things that I'm glad were addressed, you know, showing a bit more depth to this unit family that we have now. They do feel like a family, showing what it's like for Ruby, or companions in general, after life with the Doctor, and showing that actually there can be outcry against UNIT. So I think they took some really clever, unique, cool ideas, and they made, I wouldn't say they crammed them in, but they certainly got quite a bit done for 45 minutes. I am quite surprised I enjoyed it this much, but I think what it did really well was that there was a lot of locations and characters to meet in that short amount of time, and I felt that, I mean, maybe I thought there was a lot of sort of promotion about the monster, but the monster felt a bit crap in the end. It didn't really do anything. I think that was the point, though, because Conrad was meant to actually be the villain of the piece. So that's not really a problem. That's just an observation. Outside of the storyline, the acting I thought was very good. Millie Gibson smashed it out of the park. Gemma Redgrave, I was very impressed with her performance, seeing more depth to her character. The rest of the unit lot were all good as well, no complaints there. Ruth Madeley as well, I really enjoyed. She's probably my favourite of that unit lot. I just think she has a bit of an edge to her. And actually, I've just Ibrahim, that's his name, isn't it? Something Colonel Ibrahim, I think. There's the other unit guy, and there's a bit more hinting at something going on with him and Kate. I don't really care for any of that. I don't think any of us do. But yeah, he was good as well. So I'm looking forward now. I think this is what this did do. It's made me more excited for that spin-off next year, because there's probably not going to be too much Doctor Who after season 2. So if that spin-off's all we're going to get, then I'm glad that at least the characters are going in a direction that I can get behind. I think what this also showed me is that I probably do prefer Belinda's character to Ruby. I think that's more just based on seeing that little snippet of that adventure at the start with the Doctor and Ruby. I think they get on a bit too much. I think Belinda, at times, she challenges the Doctor, and that's really good. Belinda recent in The Well seemed a bit more run-of-the-mill, so I want her to kind of revert back to that more feisty, matching the Doctor sort of type personality. But we'll see what happens next week. Direction as well, I also want to say, really liked. Same director as The Robot Revolution. I was a fan of the direction in that. So hopefully Peter Hall does more stories. Apparently he did A Good Man Goes to War. We're not going to get into that because I'm not a massive fan of that one. Probably to most people's shock, because it's, Lord, that's a great story. We're not talking about A Good Man Goes to War. We're talking about Lucky Day. It was my lucky day because I was surprised that this sort of filler episode actually covered some really cool ideas. It was entertaining. I don't know what the consensus is going to be, but I enjoyed it. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you later.